Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee to order. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Senator Norman,
I'm here.
Senator Vogel,
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. One or two quick orders of business. Senator Favola has asked that we strike Senate Bill 1159. It's been moved, and is it seconded? And seconded that we strike Senate Bill 1159. Also, Senator Mason has asked that Senate Bill 1312 be passed by for the day. So without objection, we will pass that bill by for the day. Brief comment on the conformity bill. The subcommittee chaired by Senator Barker met yesterday and has come up with what we hope will be acceptable to most people. I know we're not going to please everybody on everything, but we've come up with what we think is a good compromise. That compromise, however, is not yet prepared as a substitute, so we will be hearing it tomorrow for those of you with interest in that particular bill. Now we can...
Madam Chair.
Yes, Senator Hanger.
Thank you. Along that line, as I mentioned to you earlier there, Senate Bill 1326, which is on the docket today, dealing with the collection of local government's cigarette tax that we authorized last year. We've been communicating with local governments, and we really need to move toward the regional concept, but we need to work on the language a little bit. So anyone, and I expect there are a number of people that are watching us today that were interested in this that don't intend to take it up today with your permission.
Okay, we'll pass it by for the day without objection. Are there any others that need to be passed by for the day? All right. Our first, yes.
Did you want to strike the senator's bill?
Yeah, Senator Favola.
Senator Favola?
Yes.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Moved that it be Senator Favola's bill 1159 be stricken. Is there a second?
Second.
And second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Senator Norman, how do you vote?
Senator Norman votes aye.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Aye 16, no 0.
Aye 16, no 0. The bill is stricken. Okay, let's start then with our agenda. And the first bill is Senator Boysko's bill 1226.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Good morning, Senator.
Good morning. Madam Chair and members of the committee, 1226 says the Compensation Board shall consider workloads total comprehensively, including the use of diversion programs and specialty dockets when determining staff levels and funding levels for an attorney for the Commonwealth in the office. This is one of Fairfax County's priority bills. The current formula, as you probably know, relies on felony indictments and sentences as the basis for assessing workloads to determine the allocation of state staffing and funding resources for each Commonwealth's attorney's office, rather than considering more progressive approaches to criminal justice. There is a fiscal statement on this bill that describes an ongoing study being conducted by the Compensation Board and the Virginia Association of Commonwealth's Attorneys. The FIS reads, however, due to the complications presented by the current health pandemic and abnormal workloads, the Compensation Board estimates that it would need one-time funding in fiscal year 2022 of up to $300,000 for contracting for the completion of a full weighted caseload study in order to meet the requirements of the bill. My bill, honestly, is limited just to adding the considerations of diversion programs and not just felonies and convictions to the funding decisions for the Commonwealth's attorneys. We believe that this is an important step that fits well into our criminal justice reform. And I know that many Commonwealth attorneys have requested additional funding. It makes sense to complete the full weighted caseload study when considering those requests. I know that Senator Soroville has a budget amendment that calls for the comprehensive study, but to clarify, my budget is language only, intended to ensure that no office will lose money as a result of this change. The concept here is that funds could be redistributed within each office, allowing for a shift from a focus on felony convictions to the youth of diversion programs such as mental health courts. And allocating of the funding using the new code language for my bill would be completed in May 2022 by the Compensation Board to determine the fiscal year 23 funding. I have Claudia from Fairfax County on the line. If you do have specific questions, I hope that you will be able to pass the bill to the Senate floor.
Because this came from another committee, we will not be taking public comment on it. Are there any questions from committee members?
Madam Chair, if we go forward with this, is this something we need the calls on?
I believe not.
Madam Chair.
No.
Madam Chair, Senator Deeds, Senator Boysko put in a language-only amendment stating that adequate funding shall be provided to accommodate essentially the provisions of the bill for Commonwealth attorneys as a result of the change in the staffing standards, but there was no funding put in it in the patron amendment.
Well, Madam Chair, I'm just wondering if we're ordering somebody to do a new study and there are going to be some costs associated with that, and should we make sure, and the responsible thing to do, to make sure that that funding is included in the budget?
Okay, yes, I think you're right, Senator Deeds. It probably needs the clause.
Yep, Madam Chair.
Senator Peterson.
And I apologize. We did have the general government sub meeting, and this is one of the budget amendments that's in our subcommittee, and I think it'll get a favorable treatment, hopefully.
I would move the cause.
It's been moved and seconded that the clause be added to Senate Bill 1226. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Madam Chair.
Senator Newman.
Madam Chair, just quickly, I appreciate the fact that there's a hold harmless provision. However, moving forward, I don't think there's any question that those of us in more rural areas, Roanoke, Lynchburg, and other areas, will not get the increases, even though we may be frozen. Once you do a new staffing study, moving forward after that, the others will move forward and you will remain frozen. And that's kind of my concern, is that if we deviate from the current staffing ratios, those in the maybe less populated areas may end up be frozen at the current rates and not get the increases as opposed to others who will. So I'm concerned about that.
Madam Chair.
Senator Deeds.
I live in probably the most rural area of the Commonwealth, and I know of areas where population has declined significantly over the last 30 or 40 years, and the Commonwealth Attorney's Office continues to grow. Even though that I don't see any significant increase in crime, I don't think it hurts to take a look at all of this. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me that the offices grow the way they are. And I think it makes sense to do this sort of study.
Any further questions or comments? Is there a motion on the bill?
Report.
It's been moved and seconded the bill be reported as amended. All in favor, please record your vote.
Senator Norman, how do you vote?
Senator Norman votes aye.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Ayes 13, noes 2, abstentions 1.
Ayes 13, noes 2, abstentions 1. The bill is reported. Senate bill. Next up is Senate Bill 1318. Senator Hashmi. Does she know it? Good morning, Senator. We have a committee substitute to your bill. Have you seen it?
Yes, I believe it's the one that I discussed with staff yesterday.
Yes.
Is there also a new fiscal impact statement attached with that?
April.
Madam Chair, Senator Hashmi, according to Jason Powell, who's on the line, the substitute would remove the current fiscal impact that this FIS posted yesterday with a large impact. So the substitute would remove in this biennium the fiscal impact.
Thank
Is
you.
there a motion to adopt the substitute?
So moved. Second.
And seconded, the substitute be adopted. All in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed?
Aye.
No. Substitute's adopted. Senator Hashmi.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. SB 1318 is, 1318 is our Environmental Justice Act bill. Committee members may remember that last year we introduced the Environmental Justice Act, which created a definition of what we mean by environmental justice in the Commonwealth. And last year in the session, we put the language of the interagency work group that was established inside of our budget. So the work group began its efforts this past summer, and it has been charged with conducting an assessment of the processes and the resources that are required of our state agencies to develop agency-specific environmental justice. Their report from this past several months was due in December. It has been developed, but it hasn't yet been released, and we're waiting for its release. But this bill is putting into legislation then the efforts of the Interagency Environmental Justice Work Group as a effort for governors' secretariats to designate at least one and no more than 3 environmental justice coordinators to represent the secretariat in matters of policy development, particularly as they impact environmental justice. So the substitute you have in front of you takes out section 2.2-236, which defines state agency responsibilities, and thus it takes out the fiscal impact that was resulting from those efforts, and it focuses just on creating and maintaining that working group as members of the governor's secretariats.
Thank you. Are there questions for Senator Hashmi? We will not be taking public comment on this bill because it was previously had public comment. Is there a motion on the bill?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the bill be reported. All in favor, please record your vote.
Senator Norman, how do you vote?
Senator Norman votes no.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes no.
Ayes 11, noes 5.
Ayes 11, noes 5. The bill's reported.
Thank you.
Next up is Senator Lewis with Senate Bill 1350. Okay. We will come back to that one. He's not here at the moment. Next is Senator Morrissey, Senate Bill 1262.
Madam Chair, Senator Morrissey is not outside at the moment either, but I will try to track him down.
Moving on. Next up is Senator Edwards with Senate Bill 1212.
This is the New River Valley Passenger Rail Station. My understanding is there's no fiscal impact. Am I right? From the Commonwealth.
Madam Chair, Senator Edwards, that is correct. And I do believe, however, that there are technical amendments to adopt a misspelling in the bill.
Yes.
But Connor can report if you need additional information.
Horrors, we can't have anything going out that's misspelled.
It's rather humorous because what's misspelled is education.
Tells you something, doesn't it?
Is there a
I move
motion?
the amendment.
The amendment has been moved. Is there a second? Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. No. Just kidding, just kidding.
Okay, the amendment's adopted. Is there a motion on the bill?
I move that the bill be reported as amended.
It's been moved and seconded the bill be reported as amended. Please record your vote.
Senator Norman, how do you vote?
Senator Norman votes aye.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
I-16, no zero.
I-16, no zero. The bill's reported. I am told that Senator Lewis is here now, so we can go back to Senate Bill 1350. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I actually have the wrong bill with me, but I think I can do 1350 as well. 1350, Madam Chair, involves the bringing into the statewide transportation program the idea of resiliency. As I described it in committee earlier, it is a first date between resiliency and transportation planning. I think, Madam Chair, you look, there's been an updated, I think, fiscal impact statement. The original bill embedded resiliency into smart scale. This particular bill, the substitute that was adopted by the committee, took it out of smart scale. And I think that brought the fiscal impact actually down to zero.
That's the understanding of staff as well.
So what we're doing now is just requiring essentially in the 6-year plan that when it's published as to the projects, that we include a statement as to whether resiliency was considered or part of the project. And also when we do the state's transportation plan, the 20-year plan, we look at we include resiliency in that as well. And we direct that the commissioner develop resiliency as part of the planning going forward for transportation planning. It's that simple.
Okay. Are there questions for the senator?
Yes. I understand the word by itself, resiliency. Explain how you use it in this.
In other words, is a project designed with frequent flooding, storms, whether it's a rain event in the western part of the state or in coastal Virginia, whether it's just sea level rise, is the project built to withstand increases in sea level rise? Is it going to be is it high enough to withstand flooding, the rising tides, and subsidence too, for that matter?
Okay. Any further questions?
Madam Chair,
Senator Eben.
I have a motion if it's appropriate. Move to report.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second? Second. And seconded the bill be reported. Please record your vote.
Senator Norman, how do you vote?
Senator Norman votes aye.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I-16, no zero.
I-16, no zero. The bill's reported.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator Morrissey, 1262. Yes, Senator Morrissey. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Madam Chair and good morning, members of the committee. I'm here to request the appropriations for a public defender's office in the county of
We're
Chesterfield.
doing your other bill, I'm sorry. 1262 first, please.
I'm sorry?
It's the restricted permit bill.
1262.
April.
Madam Chair, this one is Senate Bill 1262, related to the prepayment of fines and costs to the restricted permit. It's the one that provides a person who is otherwise eligible to receive a restricted permit to operate a motor vehicle shall not be required to pay his full fines and costs before being issued such restricted permit. The reason it's here is this has an indeterminate negative non-general fund cost related to the fees.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
That's fine.
I had public defender's office on my mind.
That's next.
With respect to 1262, the prepayment of fines and costs for restricted license, what my bill does is it eliminates the requirement to prepay all fines and costs by an individual who is eligible to receive a restricted license. As we know, fines and costs means all fines, court costs, forfeitures, and penalties. And currently in Virginia, individuals who are eligible to receive a restricted license are required to pay all fines and costs, as compared to legislation in the past where an individual had their license suspended and they were allowed to get a full driver's license without paying fines and costs. There was an outlier, something that slipped through the cracks. My bill, my legislation, 1262, now allows for people with restricted licenses who haven't paid fines and costs to get it. With that, I'll try to answer any questions.
Are there questions? Again, this one has been through a previous committee, so there's no public comment. Is there a motion on the bill?
Move to report.
It's been moved and seconded. Senate Bill 1262 be reported. Please record your vote.
Senator Normand, how do you vote?
Senator Norman votes no.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Ayes 12, noes 4.
Ayes 12, noes 4. The bill's reported. Okay, Senator Morrissey, your next bill is 1442, which is the one.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the one that I was dreaming about last night. Madam Chair, members of the committee, Senator Hashmi and I are here to present our request for the beginning of a public defender's office in Chesterfield County. Chesterfield County is one of our largest counties in the Commonwealth with over 350,000 citizens. Currently, it does not have a PD's office. As many of you know, we first established PD's offices almost 45 years ago, and since that time, we have 25 PD offices in the state serving 54 jurisdictions. No public defender's office that has ever been created has ever been suggested that they don't need one, or in other words, that they reverted to the old style. Here's the key reasons for a public defender's office. Right now, there are a cadre of court-appointed lawyers out there that do good work, no question about that. But with a public defender's office, you get specialization, you get training, you get supervision, you get resources. With regard to specialization, all public defenders focus exclusively on criminal defense, as opposed to court-appointed attorneys that take up do a lot of different work. Training. Public defender offices receive continual and constant high-quality training. In addition to new attorneys that are hired as PDs taking a week-long trial skill program, they also have annual 2 training sessions per year for all of the public defenders. There's a public defender conference. There's additional training, just like the prosecutors get. And each public defender is also tasked with overseeing an in-house training program. No court-appointed attorneys would have that type of training. With respect to the third category, supervision, each public defender has a chief public defender and additional supervising attorneys. Importantly, each public defender office has an appellate supervisor that handles the appellate matters to the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court. With respect to the last category, Madam Chair, the resources in each public defender's office, they are staffed with investigators that do fact investigation, as well as, which includes interviewing witnesses, but also they have mitigation specialists that help in developing sentencing. The only other thing that I want to bring to your attention, Madam Chair, is a letter that I received from the Commonwealth's attorney, a copy of the letter from the Commonwealth's attorney, Stacey Davenport in Chesterfield County, to you, Madam Chair. I was favored with a copy of it. I don't know if you received it, but if I may, I'll just read the first paragraph.
Well, I don't think your bill's in any trouble, so we might want to speed this up.
I have nothing else to say, Madam Chair.
Chair, can I,
Yes, is there a question?
I'll defer to Senator Deeds.
I was going to suggest that we put a clause on this and pass it, because it seems to me that this makes all the sense in the world. It's just a question of whether we come up with the $3.3 million. But considering we've got a bill before us to abolish the capital punishment. We've got 4 capital defender offices set up around the state, and we might not need those anymore. And so we'll have a chunk of money that will be available to us, perhaps. So I would propose that we put a clause on this bill.
Madam Chair, 15 seconds to address Senator Deeds.
Sure.
I noticed in this $3,060,000 budget, it doesn't appear to take into consideration all of those court-appointed fees from 120.
Absolutely right. You're right.
Yeah. In other words, members, Madam Chair, we will no longer, the court, this Commonwealth will no longer be paying individual case fees to each attorney, which I certainly would suggest is going to wash with this, make a wash with the $3 million. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your time.
Okay. So I lost track. Have we put the clause on it?
You have a motion and a second for the clause.
Okay. All in favor of adding the clause, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay,
Move to
the
report.
amendment's adopted, and now it's been moved that the bill be reported as amended with a second. Please record your vote.
Senator Norman, how do you vote?
Senator Norman votes aye.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Okay.
Aye 16, no 0.
Aye 16, no 0. The bill's reported. Next is Senator Edwards' Bill 1261.
Madam Chair, there is some funding budget amendments that have been put in to increase the number of Court of Appeals judges from 11 to 17, 6 new judges, which is necessary in order to handle the workload. And so I move that the budget amendments be approved.
No, we're dealing not with the budget amendments, we're
right.
dealing with the bill.
Okay, well, I move the bill be reported.
Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded that 1261 be reported. We won't have public comment on this because it's been heard previously.
Madam Chair,
Yes, and
this bill increases the size of the Court of Appeals from 11 to 17. Some of that money is included in the budget, I think, for 4 judges, new judges. It's included in the budget, but there is at least 1 or there are at least 2 new judges.
right.
Do we need
Yes, we need the clause.
But then I would hope that whoever made that motion would withdraw it.
Withdraw the motion and move to the clause instead.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded the clause be added to Senate Bill 1261. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I move that the bill be reported.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the bill as amended be reported. Please
Madam Chair.
record.
Madam Chair.
Yes, I think I hear Senator Peterson.
This is Peterson, I'm going to vote for this, but I do want to put a marker down that there are some jurisdictional issues which are not appropriate for discussion in this committee, but are going to need to be worked out. So I'm going to put a green on this, but this is not the final form. Thanks.
Okay. All in favor of reporting as amended, signify your vote.
Senator Norman, how do you vote?
No.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes no.
Ayes 11, noes 5.
Ayes 11, noes 5, the bill's reported. Next, Senator Edwards, you have Senate Bill 1443.
This is the minimum mandatory bill, which does not have a budget impact, so I move the bill be reported.
Are there questions for the senator? Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second that the bill be, and seconded that Senate Bill 1443 be reported? Please record your vote.
Senator Norman, how do you vote?
Senator Norman votes no.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes no.
Ayes 11, noes 5.
Ayes 11, noes 5, the bill is reported. Senator Locke, you're next with Senate Bill 1196.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 1196 is a proposal that sets out several new training and professional development requirements that will equip all Virginia educators with the skills necessary to sustain culturally responsive classrooms. And there's a need to provide Virginia educators workforce with opportunities for training and professional development that promotes more culturally responsive pedagogy in the classroom, and in turn facilitates deeper learning and a sense of belonging for Virginia's public school students. And that's the essence of this bill.
Are there questions for the senator?
The funding for this is included in the budget, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes. Is there a motion on the bill?
I move to report.
It's been moved and seconded. The Senate Bill 1196 be reported. Please record your vote.
Senator Norman, how do you vote?
Senator Norman votes aye.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Ayes 13, noes 3.
Ayes 13, noes 3. The bill's reported. Next is Senate Bill 1380. Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair?
Yes.
Let me get back to that one. Okay, this is the electric school bus pilot program that passed the Senate twice last year. The bill authorizes an electric utility to do a pilot project for up to 1,250 electric school buses in its territory. The point of the bill is to make it feasible for a school division to buy an electric school bus and thereby recognize the benefits of lowering operation costs, zero air pollution, and a better health environment for the children riding the bus. That's pretty much the essence of the bill, Madam Chair, members of the committee.
Are there questions for Senator Lucas? Is there a motion on the bill?
Report, Madam Chair.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
And seconded that Senate Bill 1380 be reported. Please record your vote.
Senator Norman, how do you vote?
Senator Norman votes aye.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Ayes 15, no 0. The bill's reported. Senator Lucas, you have 1391.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, Senate Bill 1391 is a pretrial data collection. And what the bill does, it requires the Virginia Criminal Sentencing Commission to annually collect and report data on adult criminal charges that are applicable for jail and prison time by state and localities. The bill requires a report on such to the General Assembly, the Governor, and the Supreme Court, and requires information to be published on VCSC website by December 1st of each year, beginning December 1st, 2022. And Madam Chair, that's the essence of the bill, and so I move that the bill be reported.
Is there a second? Second. And next I'd ask, are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, it's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1391 be reported. Please record your vote.
Senator Norman, how do you vote?
Senator Norman votes aye.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Aye. Senator Vogel votes aye.
Ayes 16, no 0.
Ayes 16, no zero, the bill's reported.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee.
Thank you, Senator Lucas. Next up is Senator Marsden, Senate Bill 1258.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would move that this bill report through the committee with the clause on it. What the bill does, Madam Chair, is that there are 60 jurisdictions, small counties, who can't do the soil and sediment studies needed for a solar project to be placed in their locality. And what this does is give DEQ the ability to perform that service for them. We're going to need a huge number of acreage dedicated to solar projects, and much of that land exists in rural areas who are unable to do the necessary environmental work, and DEQ can do that for them with this bill, and I recommend that it be reported with the clause.
Thank you. I believe before we do that, we need to remove the clause that's currently on the bill. So if we could have a motion for that.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded that the clause written on the bill at the moment be removed. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now we need an amendment to add the normal clause.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that our usual clause be added. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And now the bill.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded the bill as amended be reported. Please record your vote.
Senator Norman, how do you vote?
Senator Norman votes aye.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Ayes 16, no zero.
Ayes 16, no zero. The bill's reported. Senator Marsden, you have Senate Bill 1275.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill came into committee, I think would have had an impact. It would be a mandate to work with EMT, emergency medical services workers, who are the last folks who do not have the presumption for cardiovascular. You know, volunteer firefighters have it, and volunteer EMS workers do not. But we turned in committee. We had a committee substitute that made it a local option. So I believe that removes the cost, and local jurisdictions can decide if they want to cover their volunteer EMTs and what have you with this cardiovascular presumption. And so I move that the bill be reported.
April.
Madam Chair, staff had recommended committee amendments to make it not clear that it was not retroactive.
I'm sorry?
Madam Chair, Senator Marsden, staff had recommended amendments to make it clear that it was not retroactive.
Okay.
Okay. It's been moved. Is there a second that we...
Second.
The committee amendments to make sure it's not retroactive. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, those amendments are adopted. Okay, is there now a motion on the bill?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1275 as amended be adopted. Be reported. All in favor, vote aye. Opposed, nay.
Senator Norman, how do you vote?
Senator Norman votes aye.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Oh, sorry. Senator Vogel votes aye.
Ayes 16, no zero.
Ayes 16, no zero. The bill's reported. Senator McClellan, you have Senate Bill 1310.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 1310 is Phase 2 of a Domestic Workers Bill of Rights. It's following on legislation passed last year. This bill, as amended by the General Laws, or whatever committee it went through, only extends the protections of the Human Rights Act and the workplace safety and health provisions of the code to domestic workers. there is a fiscal impact statement that said, based on a similar bill, that the Attorney General's office would need one full-time employee. However, in my discussions with the Attorney General's office, they believe they can absorb any resulting work from this in their current workforce, and so they don't believe there is a fiscal impact. In the notes from finance staff, it says there could be a fiscal impact on the Department of Labor and Industry. However, as part of a working group that resulted from last year's bill, they said if a domestic worker were to file a complaint with them, they would investigate it under current law, that this bill only clarifies the authority they think they already have and that they can absorb any resulting cost. And so they don't believe there's a fiscal impact either.
April.
Madam Chair, I believe staff had identified a possible Woodrum impact, but I would ask Connor to actually speak to whether there should be an amendment related to that.
Sure, Madam Chair. This is Connor from DLS. The Criminal Sentencing Commission published a Woodrum impact statement, which you can see on LIS for the bill. So the bill would just need one enactment added, which is the standard language for a Woodrum impact.
Okay.
Is that, Madam Chair, is that the $50,000 clause?
Yes.
Okay, well, I would make that motion then.
It's been moved and seconded the Woodrum amendment be added to the bill. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, now the bill's before us. It's been moved and seconded that 1310 as amended be reported. Please record your vote.
Senator Norman, how do you vote?
Senator Norman votes no.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Ayes 12, noes 4.
Ayes 12, noes 4. The bill's reported. Let's see. Next up is Senate Bill 1375, which I would like us to hear along with Senator Vogel's bill, Senate Bill 1342. Yeah, Senator Sasslaw.
Yeah, the bill that I have is similar to what I had last year, only I'm getting allowed to get Christmas treed, with every group imaginable, signing on to the bill. It provides a presumption with respect to COVID-19 for firefighters and emergency workers. I think Senator Vogel's bill provides also for, I think, police and prison employees or she adds another group to it. My bill alone, I don't, I'm sure there's a fiscal impact, but I have not been given it. But it's nowhere near. Last year, with all these groups added, would have added $35 million. This is considerably less, but if staff has a number, I'd like to hear it.
April.
Madam Chair, Senator Sasslaw, the number on your bill that was reported to us from VACO was $4 million from a local impact standpoint. From Senator Vogel's bill, they reported $15 million.
How much?
15.
15 and 4. So, that's a decision that the Finance Committee, I did not, I'm not sure I put in a budget, I may have put in a budget amendment.
What's the local impact?
Yeah.
Senator Vogel, would you like to speak to your bill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just say that Senator Sasslaw has an outstanding bill. I am advocating for this bill to pass in any form. I know there's some opposition, and I know that the fact that mine includes law enforcement broadens my bill and adds that additional fiscal impact. Just as a policy matter, I would like to be able to include firefighters, EMS, and law enforcement. I understand the fiscal impact is an issue, and I know that this came up this morning in our general government subcommittee that, and April may want to speak to this, that there are some issues about it being retroactive, but I just feel like it's so important and it's worth funding, and I would hope that the committee would support it.
Okay, I was going to ask you, Senator Vogel, if you wanted to roll yours into Senator Saslow's.
Yes, I move that we roll 1342, please, into Senator Saslaw's 1375.
And co-chief patrons.
Yes, and we can be co-chief patrons.
Okay.
Now, by doing that, does that include law enforcement?
No.
And
Madam Chair, I'm sorry.
And I think, Madam Chair, we can, whatever will make it with respect to law enforcement, I defer to Senator Saslaw.
Madam Chair.
Senator Peterson.
I would be negligent if I did not speak on behalf of the sheriff's office that have manned the jails and have had people that have been susceptible to COVID. I mentioned Deputy Sheriff Butch Cameron, who succumbed to COVID back in December, and I'll certainly support this effort, but whatever we can do to reach our correctional officers and sheriff's deputies serving in the local jail with this presumption, I would want to see that be paramount.
Madam Chairman Thomas.
Yes, Senator Norman.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I echo the comments of Senator Peterson on it. I do question the increased cost in it, and I understand that weighing cost against health benefits is dicey at best. You may not be aware there's an incredible amount of national litigation that's going on regarding these presumptions of the pandemic.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Senator Vogel.
In addition to advocating for law enforcement and our sheriffs and deputy sheriffs, I wanted to mention that there is one other distinction between my bill and Senator Saslaw's bill, and this was worked out among the stakeholders, I think, in hopes of making this more appealing, and that is that mine requires that there be a diagnosis from a licensed physician of COVID-19 after a presumptive positive lab test confirmed for COVID-19 and presented with signs and symptoms that require medical treatment. And that's a distinction between my bill that requires a slightly higher threshold. So if we roll the two bills in, I might request that language be included, please.
And so as I'm hearing people, you would like the bills rolled together into Senator Saslaw's, you'd like to include local law enforcement, and you would like to include the diagnosis language from Senator Vogel's bill. In addition,
Madam Chair.
In addition, we need to get rid of the retroactive component. Is that, have I?
Sounds like we're rolling mine into hers.
Is it whatever you want? Yours is the lower.
It's a function of money, and the committee's got to make up, their mind. I put it in scaled down because of the budgetary situation.
Mm-hmm.
Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure.
I'm sorry.
Senator Hanger.
Following up on Senator Saslaw's comments, it appeared to me that Senator Vogel wanted her name on Senator Saslaw's bill in support of it, but the only change she was going to make to him was the language she just suggested, rather recognizing that it would be too heavy a lift this year or at this moment for the other part.
Senator Vogel, is that correct?
Madam Chair, I think what he said was, I'm happy to roll mine into his and just change the language and expand law enforcement. Is that what he said?
No,
Someone
he
was
said
talking
not,
to me.
he said not include law enforcement.
Oh.
Just do the diagnosis.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't advocate on behalf of law enforcement. They worked incredibly hard to help put this bill together and were part of that negotiation to add a higher standard and include that language, I think, to try to make the bill more appealing and make sure that we had an actual diagnosis from a healthcare professional with a real test. And I would have to say, along with Senator Norman and Senator Peterson, they are a group that's exposed and has a high risk, and they've certainly made quite a sacrifice. So I want the bill to pass, and I would like to protect our firefighters and EMS. And so if the FIS is going to kill the bill, then I would be deferential to the committee's wishes, but I would certainly advocate on behalf of keeping law enforcement if at all possible.
Madam Chairman, Tommy again.
Yes, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just looking at this from a factual standpoint and not being disingenuous to any group, if you look at law enforcement, deputies, sheriffs, correctional people, they are coming in physical contact with many more individuals than firefighters. And I don't mean to be disrespectful to the mission of firefighters, but they just are, if you're looking at comparative contacts with individuals, there really is no comparison.
If I might state my preference, it would be to go with the $15 million version, adding the local law enforcement and the diagnosis language.
That's fine if we have the money.
And the what was it? The retroactive amendment is.
You know how much money we have. That's
Yeah, I know. When we have to prioritize all the time.
Madam Chair, this is Connor from DLS. I just wanted to ask a quick question to clarify your amendment. Senator Vogel's bill, in addition to Senator Saslaw's bill, which had the firefighter provision, Senator Vogel's bill also had law enforcement officers, which you mentioned. Did you want correctional officers included as well, or just law enforcement?
Did Senator Vogel's have correctional?
It did, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam Chair, mine was state and local law enforcement and correctional officers.
Okay. Yes, that would be my proposal.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Why don't you just roll mine into hers?
Well, that's fine. Okay.
No, we can roll it into his. I'm a chief co-patron, Madam Chair, and I'm satisfied.
Either way.
Super appreciative of the committee's sticking with law enforcement.
Madam Chair, what would be the appropriate motion that you're seeking to accomplish this?
I don't know.
Madam
I think we
Chair.
need to have staff drop the substitute. I assume it's a substitute. And that we first have a motion to roll one bill into the other, and somebody can.
Madam Chair, I think I made that motion, but I can make it again, and that would be,
Okay.
I would move that.
Madam Chair, if we can withdraw this motion,
Withdraw.
withdraw the current motion.
Let's withdraw the current motion. Senator Vogel.
I withdraw the current motion.
Thank you. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, Tommy, may I ask a question of staff, please?
Yes.
Is there some way, as this bill moves forward in whatever form it finally congeals on, the staff to do a takeoff on what the additional cost would be to include sheriff's deputies? Not moving to include it, but if we could get some quantification on it, ma'am. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Will do. Okay, we don't actually have the substitute in front of us, but I think we know what the substitute entails. So is there a motion?
Move to report the substitute concept.
Okay. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the substitute that's being prepared.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
did you want to incorporate Senator Saslaw's bill into Senator Vogel's bill first, and then?
All right, let's do that.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Could I clarify? I think the motion, just to be clear, is that, or the motion that I withdrew, but what we're actually voting to support, is we're going to roll Senate Bill 1342 into Senator Saslaw's 1375, but we are going to include the additional language that sets a threshold for a licensed physician, the testing language that was there. And we are going to include law enforcement and correctional officers.
I'll second that.
Okay, that motion has been moved and seconded. Further discussion?
Madam Chair, so there are two motions. We're going to incorporate first,
All right.
and then add the
Okay, let's
substitute.
have the incorporation motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we incorporate Senate Bill 1342 into Senate Bill 1375.
It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1342 be incorporated into 1375 and there be co-chief patrons. All in favor, please record your vote.
Senator Norman, how do you vote?
Senator Norman votes aye.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
I 16, no 0.
Move substitute.
I 16, no 0.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Okay, now I do want to add to this that we need to have language on the retroactive component added as well. It's been moved and seconded that the retroactive component be added as well. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Okay.
So Madam Chair, with that amendment, you are simply making this bill prospective, not retroactive?
Yes.
Madam Chair, I would ask, do you need a cause on this bill because of its fiscal impact?
April.
I will also turn it over to let Adam speak, but I would say the biggest impact is a local impact, which we normally don't address. But let me turn it over to Adam if Madam Chair is fine with that.
Fine.
Madam Chair, Senator Deeds, yeah, the retroactivity is what added all of that local cost, essentially. So prospectively, there would be a cost, but it's going to be far less. It's still indeterminate, but far less.
Remember, it's just for COVID.
Yes.
Yes.
Madam Chair? I'm sorry.
Yes, Senator Hanger.
I was wondering if, now that we've put this together, are we going to have a Thursday meeting? I'd really like to see the impact that we're
Probably.
pushing down on local government before we finalize this. Or is it already prepared?
Madam Chair, we'll
Indeterminate. He said it's indeterminate.
Madam Chair, we will be meeting tomorrow. It is unclear whether we will be meeting on Thursday at this time.
Well, we could do it tomorrow possibly then.
Okay, so Senator Hanger, you'd like to pass it by for today so you can see
If that's possible, just so we could focus on what the impact that we're pushing back to local government.
Without objection, we will pass it by for the day. Senator Saslaw, you have Senate Bill 1405.
Yes. Madam Chairman and members of the committee, this is the G3 bill. If you remember, the governor had it, I think it was in the last year's budget. This puts it into the code as it's on its own. First of all, the governor put $36 million in his budget for this, for FY22. And what it will be is to make available to people going to community colleges but are studying or engaged in high demand fields, which I guess the Workforce Development Committee will determine along with the community college people, or a program, it could be a private program, after they have obtained all of their available aid through Pell Grants or whatever else is available, the state would then provide the rest. So essentially, if you were in a high demand field and your family income did not exceed 4 times the federal poverty level, which for a family of four would be about $104,000 a year. That's the federal poverty level. Above that, you would not qualify, obviously. You have to be taking at least 6 credit hours, but you have to finish the program within 3 years. And if you drop out of the program after you have started in and have received money, you have to repay that. So and I have to tell you, I've never seen a bill endorsed by so many various groups, from early childhood education to the Associated General Contractors, the Northern Virginia Chamber, a Hospital Association, Economic Development Partnership, Capital One. I could go on and on. All the various chambers, regional chambers and state and local chambers have all endorsed it. As you know, a lot of the states, and Tennessee being one of the first ones, they have a free community college, period. And more and more states are moving in that direction. So this is definitely needed as we come out of this COVID-19 situation. There's going to be a demand in a lot of areas for skilled workers. So with that, explanation, I would move that the bill be reported. And as I said, the money is in the budget.
It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1405 be reported. We haven't had the opportunity for anybody to ask any questions. Are there any questions? Okay, let's take the vote to report the bill.
Senator Norman, how do you vote?
Senator Norman votes aye.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
I-16, no, 0.
I-16, no, 0. The bill's reported. Now, up till now, all the bills we heard had been heard in a different committee. Going forward, they haven't, so we will be opening for public comment on these bills. The first bill is Senate Bill 1166, Senator Kiggins.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning.
I'll go ahead and present Senate Bill 1166. It establishes a non-refundable individual income tax credit of $500 for certified nursing aides, licensed practical nurses, and registered nurses who work in a licensed nursing home or certified nursing facility in the Commonwealth. This bill came as a result of our nursing home recruitment and retention work study that we worked on over the summer to try to find ways to increase our nursing workforce. And we thought that providing a direct stimulus for people in the form of an income tax credit would be one way to do that.
Thank you. I'm going to recommend that this bill go into the tax study group that will be meeting in the interim. Okay, it's been moved that the bill be put in the tax study group. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, next. Thank you, Senator Kiggins.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Next up is Senate Bill 1252, Senator McPike. Yes, Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Senate Bill 1252, we do have a substitute, Madam Chair.
Move this substitute be adopted. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Substitute is adopted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 1252 deals with the sunset and provisions around 2 coal tax credits that we have on the books, one of which is the Coal Employment and Production Incentive Tax Credit, which is claimed by and dedicated basically for electricity producers. The second is for the Coalfield Employment Enhancement Tax Credit. And so, as many of the members here also on JLARC noted the report we received this fall, identifying that roughly the return on investments is 5 cents on the dollar. So it is one of the lowest incentives and credits that we do provide. In fact, the JLARC report noted that roughly the tax credit cost 35 jobs and 21 million in GDP. Over the period, over $300 million in credits have been claimed. In fact, looking back further, in 2011, JLARC also had a report studying the impacts, and at the time it had projected and reviewed the period from 1996 through 2005, noting that the reduction in production was projected to be at 28% in coal production. Looking back at JLARC in 2011 noted that production, in fact, still fell even with the tax credit by 28%, and employment also dropped by 38% during that period. In FY19, roughly 16.6 million in these credits were also claimed. So the question as we move forward and identified the various issues from JLARC is not only adding the sunset provision. The first, the coal employment production incentive tax credit, has no sunset currently. Additionally, the credits can be claimed over a 10-year period. And so this provision puts the sunset for both at 2022. And I would just note, even with that, the appropriations would still have liability out until 2026 and beyond for the coal incentive production tax credit based on carryovers. So there is an enactment that would limit the year-over-year carryover to 1 million within the language in enactment number 2. But I think most importantly, the substitute addresses a couple of different concerns from the community, specifically enactment 2 for the metallurgical coal. We did remove them from the cap of 1 million year-over-year, alleviating some of those concerns. But number 3, forward-looking. This bill now also sets up the DMME, Department of Mines and Mineral Engineering, in coordination with the Virginia Coalfield Economic Development Authority, the Virginia Economic Development Partnership, and the Virginia Employment Commission, Southwest Workforce Development Board, and the Council on Environmental Justice to convene a stakeholder work group, including public meetings and public comments of opportunities to provide an interim report to the General Assembly for recommendations on how the Commonwealth can provide economic transition to support the coalfield region, with particular focus on workforce redevelopment, economic diversification, reclamation of coal-impacted lands, brownfields, and community revitalization, Madam Chair. And as the committee is probably familiar with, I put several other bills in this year to focus on Southside and Southwest specifically. In fact, yesterday on the floor, our data center bill passed the Senate 39-0, focusing on double distressed. And so this is one tool that we've already passed in the Senate to help address sort of the long-term goals and impacts to the Southwest economic health. Additionally, before this committee, I believe tomorrow, is the telework bill, also focusing its efforts on the ability for employment and telework jobs to incentivize to the distressed parts of the Commonwealth. And finally, Madam Chair, as you're probably familiar, also put in a $2 million budget amendment to the Virginia Coalfield Economic Development Authority, VCEDA, because they do lose funds over time because they receive basically back 15% through the coal tax credits. And so this is something long-term structurally that we'll need to address. And this work group also will come back and provide recommendations to the General Assembly, Madam Chair. And I know there are some speakers that we've worked with in collaboration. Mm-hmm. The substitute now also aligns with the House version. We adjusted. They had dates a little bit earlier. We got the House back to the dates now in our Senate version, and have worked with stakeholder groups to come up with the enactment language, and happy to answer any questions.
Do any members have questions for Senator McPike? Senator Norman.
Thank you, Madam. Senator McPike, can you share with me who is supportive of this approach? Thank you.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
He asked who is supportive of this approach.
So the stakeholder groups, I think, have probably signed up to speak and understanding, working through the language that we need to map out what the incentives need to look like for the future of Southwest. And so I know folks have collaborated on the language like Appalachian Voices, those within the coal industry as well, to do a couple things. And I think that the interest for the industry is mapping out certainty And that's when it has also been expressed to me. They don't want to relitigate this next year and the year beyond and the year beyond, to sort of have certainty in the pathway forward and what it looks like. And I think that the study group is also a critical component of this, Madam Chair.
Madam Chairman, Tom
Yes,
Newby.
Senator Norman.
Can you share with me by name, title, or description who is supportive of this legislation? Not study group, but if you could please share with me specifics. Thank you.
Senator Norman, I believe we're going to take public comment, and that will probably answer your question.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I appreciate that.
Are there any further questions? Okay, now we will have public comment. We'll have 4 minutes on each side. First, those who support the legislation.
First, we have Ellen Miller. Please go ahead.
Hi, Ellen Miller, JLARC. Madam Chair, I'm just here to answer any questions members have about our study and recommendation to repeal the tax credit.
Thank you, Ellen.
Next is Chris Wadika. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Chris Wadika with the Commonwealth Institute. We strongly support this bill, and we thank Senator McPike for patroning it. I think we agree with a lot of the remarks said so far, and we thought the findings from the JLARC report were very persuasive. We believe there are better ways to invest in local and regional economies in Virginia, and we hope that you report the bill. Thank you.
Chelsea Barnes.
Thank you. My name is Chelsea Barnes. I'm the new Economy Program Manager for Appalachian Voices based here in Wise County. While our organization takes no position on the repeal of the tax credits, we just ask that when you do, or if you choose to, that you include the stakeholder process. Communities in the coalfield region have long suffered the adverse effects of coal mining. That has included missing mountaintops and black lung disease, and now we're also suffering from the shuttered schools and abandoned businesses as a result of the industry's decline. And while this body, of course, is invested in various economic development projects, boards, and authorities, it's clear that a new approach is warranted as we transition to clean energy. We thank the patron for including this amendment, and we look forward to working with all of you to reinvest in the region's economy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Harry Childress, please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'm Harry Childress, President of the Metallurgical Coal Producers Association. Through our discussions with Senator McPike, metallurgical coal was removed from the enactment clause. And with that, our board voted unanimously to withdraw our opposition to Senate Bill 1252, as the current substitute provides our members with clarity and certainty through the end of the new sunset period. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Cromer.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Mary Cromer. I am Deputy Director of Appalachian Citizens Law Center. I'm also a nearly lifelong resident of Wise County. ACLC supports this bill with the substitute, and we really appreciate the substitute. We believe that the public stakeholder process addressing what Virginia can do to support just economic transition in the coal fields is critical, especially because we hope that the process will develop a new approach for supporting future investments in our region. We in the coal fields look forward to that process, and we ask you to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, there are no other speakers with their hands raised.
Okay, now then, is there anyone in opposition with a hand raised?
If anyone wants to speak in opposition to the bill, please raise your hand on Zoom. There are no speakers, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. So we've adopted the sub, and is there a motion on the bill?
Move to report.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1252 be reported. Please record your vote.
Senator Norman, how do you vote?
Senator Norman abstains.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel is going to abstain.
Ayes 12, noes 2, 2 abstentions.
Ayes 12, noes 2, 2 abstentions. The bill is reported.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator McPike. Senator Hanger, you're up next with Senate Bill 1162.
Madam Chair, if I
Yes.
may, could you please record my last vote as an aye?
Yes.
I apologize.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I have two bills on the docket this morning dealing with agriculture BMP tax credits, and I'll take up Senate Bill 1162 first, if that's okay.
Yep.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
And I would first state that we typically deal with tax credits in the long session, but both of these credits currently exist. And we're looking for modifications in both instances to target it more effectively with our limited resources. And so that is the import of it. This particular bill, 1162, would increase the agriculture tax credits called for, and it's called for in Virginia's Phase 3 Chesapeake Bay Watershed Implementation Plan. Governor Northam, of course, just this past year has chaired the Executive Council of the Chesapeake Bay Commission, and we're focused on 2025 in an attempt to meet our goals with limited resources, of course. Both of these bills, and then a bill which focus on agricultural initiatives to help the agriculture industry meet the goals, which a lot of pressure is being put on agriculture, and then another bill which will come up in agriculture this afternoon, which focuses on wastewater treatment plants. This package of bills will go a long way toward helping us still stay on track to achieve our 2025 goals. This particular bill, which I'm working with the Chesapeake Bay Commission on, and hopefully we'll have some folks here that can address specific issues if they arise, increases credits in a targeted way. And one of the areas that it's helpful is with the areas where we have concentrations of Mennonite and Amish farmers, which essentially are opposed for the most part in obtaining grants and those types of things to assist with their practices, but do utilize tax credits when they are available. I think there may be some folks online that would want to speak to this, but that is essentially what the bill does. It increases, and at least I've got a specific detail here on the matter. I think the staff has recommended, as is our practice, to put a sunset date on this if we act favorably upon it, and I would not be opposed to that.
Could we do an amendment to that effect? It's been moved and seconded that the normal sunset clause be added to the bill. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Madam Chair and Senator Hanger, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Senator Hanger had also requested amendments that would clarify the meaning of the term liability after such cost share. We have those ready as well.
Oh, good. Thank you. I forgot about that. That would be clarifying, but I would move those amendments, Madam Chair.
Is there a second for the?
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that the clarifying amendments be agreed to. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? They're agreed to.
Madam Chair.
Oh, Peterson. Senator Peterson, I'm sorry.
And I apologize if this was already mentioned. Is this in the governor's budget, or is this
This one is a separate issue. The next one I'm going to take up is the one that was included, and it stuck out rather conspicuously at $1.3 million when we were briefed on the budget.
Okay.
In terms of the money that had been allocated within the budget by the administration.
So my question would be then, if I might, do we need to put the clause language on this, or is that already on it?
Madam Chair, it does not have a clause, but the way this is operated in the past is that we allocate funds, and they can only approve these projects and credits as the projects to move forward as the money is available. Currently, we have established a baseline of roughly $35 million per year. A lot of that money is coming out of the Water Quality Improvement Fund, and we project if we were fully funding it, we would be closer perhaps to 80, 90, $100 million. But the projects are not approved unless the funds are available from the resource. So in the past, it's not been qualified with restrictive language as far as appropriating specific amounts, but rather the projects cannot move forward and be approved unless the funds are available.
I think staff had a comment.
Madam Chair, Senator Hanger, I think we are unclear about that. We do know that it reduces revenues by staff estimate between $400,000 and $2.1 million annually. I don't believe there was a cap, but I think Charles was looking to see.
Particularly as it applies to this credit you're referring to, I guess I'm standing to be corrected on that. But the projects still have to be approved through the soil and water conservation districts, and there is a limiting factor in the way they're approved, and I'm not totally clear on that. We may have somebody online that can help me with that particular issue, but this particularly I think could be $1.5 to $2 million.
Senator Hanger, we can hear from the public, but I am going to recommend that it go to the tax policy study subcommittee.
Madam Chair, I would also this one, and I don't want to put the effort in jeopardy, because in this instance sometimes we don't work as closely with the House, but I'm working with a delegate that has basically offered a number of amendments. And before I would want to see that happen, perhaps I should coordinate more closely with him, because his is on a faster track than mine, and I'm in agreement with what he's done in the House, which does, I think, in part restrict the liability that we'd be exposed to. It's just a more targeted approach. And it's time sensitive because we're focusing on 2025, and the more that we can do to expedite this process, the better off we're going to be.
Perhaps what we should do is hear from the public and then pass it by for the day.
Okay. That would be fine, Madam Chair.
Okay. Is there anyone signed up to speak on this?
Yes, Madam Chair. First, we have Kate Wofford.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you so much for the chance to comment. I'm Kate Wofford, Executive Director of Alliance for the Shenandoah Valley. We work to protect clean water, family farms, and thriving communities in 6 Valley counties. And we encourage you to please support this bill. In our view, the best way to accelerate the clean water practices on farms is to provide programs and incentives that work for family farmers. And Senator Hanger's bill does that. So we encourage you to please support that so we can meet our local clean water goals and Virginia's clean water goals. Thank you.
Next is Kyle Shreve. Please go ahead.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Kyle Shreve on behalf of the Virginia Agribusiness Council. We do support the bill. In talking with to Senator Hanger's comments before, we did work on the House side to limit the exposure to the Commonwealth by reducing the amount that could be reimbursed. Senator Hanger is exactly right that this still has to be verified and go through the soil and water conservation districts, and it is especially important for when cost share dollars run out or are limited in a given district. This just gives the producer another option because the payment for the BMP has to be made up front by the producer, and then they would be reimbursed. And so this is just another way in which they would be able to offset the cost of those BMPs in order to achieve our water quality goals. And we do support the bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Pat Calvert, whenever you're ready.
Morning, Madam Chair. Pat Calvert, Virginia Conservation Network. Thank the Senator for bringing this legislation forward. It creates an enhanced tax credit for the implementation of certain agricultural best management practices that, as the Senator referred to, are critical towards us meeting our 2025 Bay cleanup goals. These tax credits are a more workable incentive for some farmers who might not be able, for religious or other reasons, to accept government payments or to participate in current cost share programs. For that reason, we hope that you will support this.
Adam Gillenwater.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Adam Gillenwater with the Piedmont Environmental Council. We support this legislation. As the other speakers and the Senator have noted, ag BMPs are one of the most cost-effective investments to improve water quality in local streams, rivers, and the Chesapeake Bay. As the Senators noted, it's our understanding that due to religious or other reasons, some citizens of the Commonwealth are not able to take advantage of existing cost share programs. And it's for this reason that we support this legislation to better allow for all farmers across the Commonwealth to utilize the state assistance for the implementation of ag BMPs. And we hope it will be the pleasure of the committee to support this legislation.
Martha Moore.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Martha Moore with Virginia Farm Bureau. We support this legislation. One point that has not been made is that, you know, when local soil and water districts are allocated their dollars for cost share, at times they run out of those dollars. This gives them another tool in the toolbox to keep those conservation practices moving forward. We are under a tight deadline to meet the Commonwealth's water quality goals by 2025 and would appreciate just having another tool in the toolbox to help farmers to be able to meet those goals. Thank you.
Madam Chair, there are no other speakers in the queue.
Thank you. And there are none in opposition, right?
None that I can see.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so what we will do is pass this by for the day. You can come back tomorrow, and we'll make some decision.
Bring the amendments that had been agreed to that I guess focus it somewhat, so would be the resource that we might be looking at would be better defined.
Thank you. Yeah, that'll be very helpful.
Right, thank you.
Okay, now you also have Senate Bill 1163.
Yes, ma'am. And this one is the one that Senator Peterson was referencing there, that this is essentially an administration bill that is broadly supported by the ag community, the environmental community, the Chesapeake Bay Commission, and of course the administration. This one represents a focused approach.
Senator, I see that it has a substitute. Is that right? Oh.
Madam Chair, Senator Hanger, Madam Chair had asked for a committee substitute to be drafted that I actually would ask Charles to speak to. Which means you have to come over here. I can read it if you want. Right there.
Madam Chair, what the committee substitute would do would remove the refundability of the proposed credit and allow for a carryover of 10 years instead. It would also limit the amount that each taxpayer may claim to $7,750, which is approximately equivalent to the sum of the two existing credits. And this substitute would include a sunset date consistent with committee policy.
Madam Chair, in terms of the changes that were made, have we figured the impact that would have on the $1.3 million that the governor's already included in the budget?
Madam Chair, Senator Hanger, it would reduce the revenue impact significantly and perhaps eliminate it entirely.
Perhaps entirely.
Senator, it's obvious you hadn't seen this. If you'd like, we can pass it by for the day so you can look into it.
Perhaps I should, obviously.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
This is an important bill now, a number of people. And would you want to hear from any of the speakers? I think Ann Jennings probably is on the line for the
Yeah, let's hear from this. Well, they haven't seen the substitute either, so oh, well. We can hear from the public on this.
Madam Chair, first we have Russ Baxter.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. This was a bill that was proposed by the Department of Conservation and Recreation, for whom I work, and it is on behalf of the administration. Obviously, we haven't seen the substitute. The governor did account for the fiscal impact of the bill as introduced in his budget. And obviously, we support the bill, and it continues the partnership that we've had and the good work that agricultural producers are doing across the state, including in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. I know Ann Jennings is here, and also Daryl Glover, Director of the Division of Soil and Water Conservation, is also in the room. If there are any questions, technical questions or other questions that you might have for them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Anna Kilias.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Anna Kilias with the James River Association. We support SB 1163, although I will have to take a look at the changes. For all the same reasons you've heard about with regard to 1162, it's another option for farmers that want to implement these practices, which do involve some significant upfront costs. And it helps Virginia meet its goals and commitments to the 2025 Chesapeake Bay cleanup effort. So we hope you'll see fit to support it. Thanks.
Pat Calvert, go ahead.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Pat Calvert, Virginia Conservation Network, we are also in support of this legislation. To be eligible, a producer would need to have a soil conservation plan and a nutrient management plan. So this is also another tool in the toolbox to ensure that we meet our 2025 cleanup goals. Thank you.
Kyle Shreve.
Madam Chair, Kyle Shreve with the Virginia Agribusiness Council. Not having seen the substitute, we do support the underlying bill. One of the biggest barriers to practicing precision agriculture and getting the equipment is the upfront cost. And so we do support the underlying bill to provide the extra tool for our producers to practice. Thank you.
Madam Chair, there are no other members of the public with their hands raised.
Thank you. I apologize for the snafu, Senator Hanger, of you not having seen it.
Right.
And I'm wondering, can it be posted so that the public can see it?
Madam Chair, Legislative Services is saying it doesn't have to be voted on, but if you can say you're offering it, they could post it so that it could be viewed by the public.
All right, the committee is offering it. So it can be viewed, and then we can discuss it further tomorrow.
I suppose, but Madam Chair, I would a little bit taken aback on that because of the, but I understand, with the environment we're in, that these things can happen. I'm not really supportive of the substitute. I don't believe at this point, based on what I'm hearing. And one of the things I do want to point out right now, agriculture is the leading economic driver in this state still, by far. We have a situation where the ag community is in desperate needs of incentive monies to help us meet our environmental goals, and they've stepped up, and we're appropriating a lot of money for economic interests to push things, new endeavors, Go Virginia, you name it, we're doing it. And these are modest amounts of money to help an economic driver in our community that had no choice but to keep going during this COVID environment. They did not stop, they kept going, and so I hope we'll be, sensitive to that and adopt favorable, reasonable initiatives here in both of these bills. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Senate Bill 1197, Senator Locke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 1197 is the result of a stakeholder group led by the Virginia Housing and Development Virginia Housing and the Development of Housing and Community Development that evaluated the establishment of a Virginia Affordable Housing Tax Credit. that would mirror the federal low housing income tax credit. Since 1987, the federal low-income housing tax credit has produced over 100,000 affordable rental units in the Commonwealth and has spurred $2.9 billion in private equity investment in Virginia affordable housing within the past 5 years. And like the federal program, the Virginia Housing Opportunity Credit would leverage private equity investment in the creation of affordable housing rental units by allowing investors to claim the credit against their Virginia state tax liability. It is projected that this program will yield an annual increase of 762 affordable housing units, support nearly 4,000 jobs and $227.5 million in earnings, increase state and local tax revenue by $18.9 million, and contribute nearly $344.6 million to state gross domestic product. The cost of the program is roughly $20 million per year over 10 years, which is equal to the amount allocated to Virginia under the federal program. And this bill sets the parameters for establishing a tax credit program in Virginia, but will not determine how the credits will be allocated. Allocation will be done by Virginia Housing. So that's the bill, Madam Chair.
Are there questions for Senator Locke? Is anyone signed up to speak to the bill?
Yes, Madam Chair. First, we have Brian Kozel.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Brian Koziel, Executive Director of the Virginia Housing Alliance, would like to thank Senator Locke for patroning this bill. Our members are committed to expanding access to affordable housing and ending homelessness across the Commonwealth. And, you know, last night, like the night before, and the night before that, and the night before that, people slept outside in the cold and snow all across the Commonwealth, not by choice, not due to a failure of the homelessness response system, but because we don't have enough affordable housing and places for people to call home. And it would be, you know, totally disingenuous to say that this tax credit would solve all of our affordable housing needs, because it won't. But we do know that it will begin to seriously close the affordability gap facing us. VHA and its members wholeheartedly support this investment in the future of the Commonwealth, and I encourage you to do the same. Thank you.
Next, we have Andrew Clark.
Madam Chair, Andrew Clark with the Home Builders Association of Virginia, and we support the bill as well, but also understand the current fiscal realities of the Commonwealth. I'd just like to add that with the rising land, labor, materials, and other costs, building quality affordable mixed income projects becoming increasingly challenging at a time where demand across the Commonwealth is surging. And the reality is that traditional financing for these projects does not come close to even covering the cost of construction, and the equity investments provided through these tax credits help fill that gap and actually get long-term affordable units onto the ground for folks living at 30% AMI, which is really the toughest to serve demographic of individuals. So I understand that this is a difficult year to establish a tax credit like this, but I think if the last year and a half have shown us anything, we really need to do something to actually get units on the ground. So we appreciate Senator Locke's patroning the bill and hope to continue the discussion in upcoming years.
Christy Mara, please go ahead.
We need to hear the public.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, and I want to thank Senator Locke for bringing this legislation. I want to echo what Andrew just said about the need to continue to look at this issue, even as we appreciate the fiscal situation right now. I can't emphasize enough the need for more affordable housing units. We're going to lose those deeply affordable units as conventional public housing starts to go away and get replaced by other developments, excuse me, with time-limited affordability contracts. And so I think it's incumbent upon certainly the advocates, and we're all committed to it, as well as everyone else, to continue to look at solutions like the state low-income housing tax credit offered in this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Louis Boso.
Hi, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. Thanks for the time. I work on these initiatives on behalf of a state tax credit investor throughout the country to get these programs passed and in place. And where we have seen them be passed, we've seen kind of mind-blowing economic growth. And the trend seems to be that states that are invested in maintaining an economic infrastructure, i.e. a workforce that is on the lower end of the economic spectrum, the states that invest in this tax credit have housing for this rung of the workforce. I would say that in states like Georgia that have had this program in place since 2000 or 2001, if you've ever flown through Atlanta's airport, it would not exist without the tax credit. You would not have a place to house the tens of thousands of people that work in that facility every day. This would be a long-term infrastructure investment for Virginia. It's proven policy. I hope that the General Assembly will take a look at this again next year and join other states who have found it to be a worthy policy goal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Chip Dix, please go ahead.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, I'm speaking on behalf of the Virginia Realtors this morning, and we echo the remarks of Andrew Clark. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, there are no other members of the public ready to speak.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion on the bill? It's been moved to be reported. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1197 be reported. Please record your vote.
Senator Norman, how do you vote?
Senator Norman votes aye.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Ayes 16, no 0.
Ayes 16, no 0. The bill's reported. We're now moving into state tax bills, and the first one is Senator Hanger. You're back. Senate Bill 1326. Oh, we passed it. I'm sorry. Okay. Then Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Senate Bill 1353. This is the unitary combined tax reporting bill. We've worked on this extensively here in the off season with a number of Zoom groups with the business community around the Commonwealth. And last year, it was designated for a study that did not take place because of COVID. I think we've made a lot of progress, Madam Chair, and what this bill does is it requires corporations that are members of a unitary business to file a combined report. And what it does is it stops the venue shopping and shifting tax obligations in Virginia to other states where they can file. It brings everything into a unitary system, and it creates greater simplicity in filing your taxes. It creates greater certainty that what you're doing is appropriate and legal. 30 states do this, and there's the potential for significant revenue to return to the Commonwealth of Virginia. Madam Chair, but it does require, I believe, a study. I know there are a number of people who want to speak on this bill today, but I think we can save a lot of time by referring this to your tax policy committee so that the study that was intended last year can take place. But I will say this. In one of the Zoom calls, we had someone with some, real national experience in evaluating these kinds of bills, and they said this is the best one they've ever seen. So we've made some progress in
we'll
this.
Make it better.
That's
second
it.
that
That's it. So,
I'll second the motion.
But it does create winners and losers, Madam Chair, and certainly that's why it certainly needs to be studied and make sure that it's fair to everyone in Virginia. And without that, if that's appropriate, I would make the motion to do that, to send that to your tax policy committee.
It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1353 be sent to the Tax Policy Study Committee. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, Senator Marsden. Senator Norman, you're next. 1398.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think this is my premier coming out on presenting a bill through Zoom, so I'll do my best on it. This is not a new topic. As a matter of fact, it was initially brought up by former Senator Mary Margaret Whipple. And those of you in the Senate know that I have been a long-term advocate of the promotion of Virginia tourism. In fact, I carried the legislation that created the Virginia Tourism Corporation. Over the years, I have been exploring the opportunities for a reoccurring sustainable source of revenue to provide VTC with more resources to promote and advertise Virginia, and that's what Senate Bill 1398 is. I will say, Madam Chairman, it is probably not universally embraced because it is a policy change that imposes an existing tax on some entities that have not been paying it. I'm sure all of you know when you have booked a hotel room through what is referred to as an accommodation intermediary, and that's somebody like Expedia or Orbit, that when they book the room with the hotel, they charge the hotel a premium for placing that room with them. The interesting thing is that there is a dichotomy in the way that the tax is applied. The hotel property pays any sales and retail sales and related transient occupancy tax on their portion of the room night. However, the accommodation intermediary retains their fee and does not pay any retail sales or transient occupancy tax on it. It has always struck me as a little unusual because the hotel visitor is paying the full price, not a partial price. So, Madam Chairman, what this bill does very succinctly is it makes the policy change that the accommodations intermediary will have to pay any applicable retail sales and transient occupancy tax. What will happen mechanically under this bill is just as it happens now, the accommodation intermediary like Expedia or what we call online travel agencies, they will continue to remit that portion of the booking fee directly to the hotel, and they will continue to retain their fee for making that booking. The hotels will continue to have the responsibility for remitting their share of the relating retail sales and transient occupancy tax, but the bill puts the responsibility on the online travel agencies to remit their retail sales and transient occupancy tax to the department. The bill provides that the money can be used for advertising, publicizing, or otherwise promoting the Commonwealth of Virginia. I have, Madam Chairman, made one amendment in trying to work with the industry. The bill calls for the promulgation of any rules and regulations by August the 1st. The industry would like a delayed effective date of the bill until September 1, 2021, which will give them the opportunity to familiarize and set their systems up with the rules and regulations. And I think you probably have an amendment in the nature of substitute that incorporates that one change, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Is there a motion to adopt the substitute?
So
It's
moved.
been moved and seconded the substitute be adopted. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Substitutes before us.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Senator Edmund, can I ask a question of Senator Norman?
Yes, you may.
I want to thank him for bringing the bill. I had a similar bill before, and I think this helps us get the taxes that are due to us. But I did have a question about what's called the Tourism Promotion Fund created in the bill. Does this bill take any of the money that would otherwise go to the local transient occupancy tax and divert it, or where does the money for the Tourism Promotion Fund come from?
Madam Chairman, I would say it is not taking money away. This is the imposition of a new tax only on the online travel agencies. The disposition of those funds will continue as they currently are. It is just going to provide another source of revenue other than a general fund appropriation to the Virginia Tourism Corporation.
Thank you.
Further questions? Okay, we will hear from the public, and each side will get 3 minutes. Let's start with those in favor of the bill.
First, we have Eric Terry. Please unmute and go ahead.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you very much for hearing me this morning. I'm Eric Terry. I'm the president of the Virginia Restaurant, Lodging, and Travel Association. I want to thank Senator Norman and his staff and Connor and the rest of the staff on working on this. It's been a fairly complex process of getting us to this point. As Senator Norman correctly said, I mean, this is a loophole that has existed for a long time and is long overdue. And I can tell you that our local DMOs and convention bureaus are very appreciative of closing this loop and their ability to collect this tax. And the hotel industry, again, has long felt that they are paying the full tax and collecting the full tax. And so we very much appreciate consideration on this and would support this wholeheartedly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next.
Katie Boyle.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Katie Boyle with the Virginia Association of Counties, also speaking on behalf of the Virginia Municipal League. In support of this legislation, really appreciate all the work that's gone into it. As Senator Norman said, this has been a longstanding issue, and we really appreciate your consideration of the resolution. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next.
Madam Chair, there are no other hands raised.
Okay, is there anyone in opposition? No?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Lord have mercy.
I'm surprised by that too. I witnessed Senator Whipple's bill.
I move it be reported.
It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1398 in the nature of a substitute be reported. All in favor, record your vote. Aye. Opposed, nay.
Senator Norman, how do you vote?
This bill.
Enthusiastic aye.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Well, Senator Vogel votes aye.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I appreciate your assistance.
Thank you.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Ayes 15, no 0. The bill's reported. Next up, Senator Peterson, your Senate Bill 1201.
Michael. Nothing appears. I asked Cree to say it.
Madam Chair, Senate Bill 1201, is that what you just called up?
Yes.
Okay, this is a bill that has to do with electric battery storage and how the tax treatment and regulation of those units. And basically, it deals with those units that are over 25 megawatts and how they are being treated by the SCC. And right now, the SCC is set up to regulate public service corporations. This would deal with independently owned electric battery storage units, and that's about the extent of my knowledge on it. And there has been a substitute, which I would move the substitute to get that properly in front of the body.
been moved and seconded the substitute be agreed to. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Substitute's agreed to.
Okay, this is going to be like one of those mile races where you have a rabbit run the first couple hundred yards and then you let the real runner take over, and I'm going to let Chip Dix take over if that's all right, Madam Chair.
Yes. Mr. Dix. I'm putting this in the public comment category with Mr. Dix.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and members of the Finance Committee. So this bill started out as a bill requested by the State Corporation Commission and dealt with the definition and the substitute of energy supplier. And the energy supplier currently is defined as any company that generates electricity. And this is adding the word storage to that and a definition for storage, energy storage system, which again, none of this is, and I don't believe there's any opposition to this bill, I would say. And on line 129 of the substitute, that ends the State Corporation Commission portion of the bill, which was Senator Peterson's original bill. Beginning on line 130, it brings in the section on the so-called revenue share. And last year, this committee and the General Assembly passed legislation to authorize counties to either stay under the M&T tax regime or to have a revenue share. Last year, the revenue share was only authorized for solar projects. This authorizes a storage project developer to be able to negotiate with counties and to pay them a revenue share as opposed to M&T. And again, as you can imagine, the counties support that. In addition, on line 138, what it also does is to allow the counties to have a 2% every 5-year escalator on the $1,400 megawatt fee. And it's basically a capacity tax, if you will, charged at the local level. And that's 10% every 5 years. And again, as you can imagine, the rural counties support that. The last feature of the bill, Madam Chair and members of the committee, begins on line 148. It deals with the definition of certified pollution control equipment and facilities. And on line 174, the substitute, it provides that certified pollution control equipment includes energy storage equipment. And the definition, again, is on line 178. The last piece of the bill, Madam Chair, begins at line 228. And what this does in lines 228 through the end of the bill is gives the same M&T tax exemption that was given by the General Assembly last year to solar to standalone storage projects. And again, I don't believe there's any opposition to the bill, but I'm happy to answer any questions there may be.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of the bill?
Madam Chair, there are no other hands raised.
Okay, then let's have a motion on Senate Bill 1201.
Second.
It's been moved that and seconded that Senate Bill 1201 in the nature of a substitute be reported. Thank you. Please record your vote.
Senator Norman, how do you vote?
Senator Norman votes aye.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
My voting's not working. What was done wrong?
I will correct your vote, sir.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. A little technological problem here.
Okay.
I don't have his proxy.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Ayes 15, noes 0. The bill's reported. We have one remaining bill, Senate Bill 1425. Senator Ruff.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. There is a substitute for that, and I would ask that we adopt the substitute.
So moved and seconded the substitute be adopted. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's adopted.
Madam Chairman, last week, my bill that dealt with data centers and Senator McPike's were together for a while, and then they separated. I fully support what his bill did, but my substitute it takes into consideration another piece that was not in his bill. That's on lines 128 and 131, and it lowers the job requirement to 25 jobs for a data center operator who has already established a data center and opens a subsequent data center in another area of the state. I'm assuming that Senator McPikes will go forward. His requirement was 15 new jobs in economically distressed communities. Under this bill, it would require a capital investment of $150 million be maintained. This reduced job requirement for subsequent data centers encourages small and medium-sized data center operators to expand statewide, thus creating a significant economic development benefit for every corner of the Commonwealth. To make the transition to that structure smoother, the substitute for my bill also includes one enactment clause to clarify that a 25-job creation threshold applies to operators who have yet to meet their performance date and operators that develop a subsequent data center anywhere in Virginia after 7/1/2021. I think there probably is somebody who wants to speak to it. The reason for the fewer jobs is that they may have the capacity to do such things as human resources at the primary site.
Are there questions for Senator Ruff? Might I ask staff, is this in any way if I might ask staff, does this conflict with Senator McPike's bill, or can they both go forward?
Madam Chair, it does not conflict with Senator McPike's bill.
Okay, good, thank you. Well, apparently, Senator Ruff, this has already had public comment, so we won't take any more Senate. Okay. Is there a motion on the bill?
Move to report.
It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1425 be reported. Please record your vote.
Senator Norman, how do you vote?
Senator Norman votes aye.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Ayes 16, no 0.
Ayes 16, no 0. The bill's reported. I would ask the clerk, does that complete the docket?
Yes, Madam Chair, that completes the docket.
Good. Is there any further business to come before us? I just would like to remind the members of the committee that we are going to be working extremely hard this week. We have many bills tomorrow. We'll probably be having more bills on Thursday, and we have to put together the budget by Friday. So with that, the committee will rise.